Okay, great. All right, we are recording.
Okay, Sarah.
Okay, I'm Sarah. I have 4 kids, a 9-year-old boy, a 6-year-old boy, a 3-year-old girl, and an 18-month-old girl. I wanted to be homeschooled as a kid. That's about as close as I got to ever any thoughts of homeschooling until my eldest was enrolled in preschool. Something clicked after I'd already put down my registration fee. I spent that summer researching, reading, and learning and decided not to send him, and my kids have never been to school since. It's really, if it came down to why I homeschool, there's a zillion reasons why I love it. I love that I can go at my kids' own right. I can teach them the way I want them to be taught. We can have more time as a family, and we can learn in the world instead. They're not chained to a desk. There's so many reasons I couldn't say for sure, but the biggest thing I would say is that it works for us. That's why we homeschool, because it's what is working amazing for our family, and we're loving it. So for now, I always say, I never know. Things might change. I don't think, just like the number one advice I always say to people is find out your homeschool style, because once you find what works for you, it just makes everything else easier. And it's the same thing between public school, hybrid schools, private schools, homeschooling, classical homeschooling. You just got to find what really works and calls to your family.
So my name is Tracy, and I'm kind of on the other end of that spectrum. I homeschooled 3 children to the end of high school and graduated, and sent 2 of them to college. They've already graduated college. My third is entering Lawrence Tech in the fall in her sophomore year. She did a couple years at OU, and she will do architecture at Lawrence Tech for the next 3. I didn't start homeschooling. My son and first daughter went to school. They are 25, 23, and 21 now. And then my son was being bullied in a way that wasn't acceptable by both the teacher who taught his class, who wouldn't let him read things that he was able to read that were at his reading level, but still at his emotional level, including telling the librarian he couldn't. And then he was being bullied by classmates because while he was a great reader, he struggled a lot with mathematics. It wasn't, he was really good on that side of things. He's very creative. He really struggled with math, and the kids thought it was funny that he couldn't do a mad minute in a minute, wouldn't get too many of the questions done, so they would bully him on the playground. And then the bullying started getting to the point where I had to take him for a doctor's visit after school because he had been injured. And I just happened to meet someone who said, hey, have you ever considered homeschooling? And originally coming from Canada, that was an unusual thing for me. It's like, what do you mean homeschooling? But I kind of agree with Sarah. What I loved about it is that I could homeschool them at their own pace. And so we caught my son up on mathematics. And at some point we took a California achievement test when he was in 10th grade, and he was considered at mastery level. So he technically could have graduated in 10th grade. He said, Mom, please don't, I'm not emotionally ready for that. So we kept going, and we finished high school. And I always told my son he was my guinea pig. And so what I do now a lot of the times is I like to help people kind of navigate high school, because it's very different, and navigate the idea of a transcript. If your young person's next step is that they want to go to college, how do you get there? And there's lots of ways, and it doesn't always mean a transcript, but most of them want to see something on paper. So that's kind of how it went.
Awesome. Can we just go open up to questions? Do people have general questions? You can unmute yourself
so you can ask.
Yeah.
I have a question. Hi, everyone. My name is Maria, but everyone calls me Sam, Samantha, so feel free to address me by Sam.
I didn't know that. I was like, maybe she has a twin sister.
No, same person. I had to announce that because I'm like, Kelly's probably thinking who's Maria? Because she knows me by Sam.
Right, yeah.
So I do have a couple questions. I've never done homeschooling. My kids always went to Livonia public schools. And I guess I'm joining now because with the whole COVID and they're talking about doing remote learning, I just want to keep my options open if, Livonia public school decides to take that route. I just want to be able to kind of have my options open. If I'm going to be doing homeschooling basically with Livonia, I want to see what other programs are out there. To be quite honest, I'm looking at flexibility and what's convenient because I do work. So does my husband. I don't know. No one knows as of right now what Livonia is going to do as far as curriculum. Is it going to be a schedule? Do they have to log in Monday through Friday? And what's that going to look like? I also work from home. I actually work 2 days in the office, 3 days at home. And when I work at home, I feel like I do more work when I'm at home compared to when I'm in the office. So I guess for me, it's just trying to figure out the flexibility. If I have to do this from home and also work at the same time, I'm trying to how am I going to manage both? So
How old are your kids?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How old are your children?
I have 4. One is in college. He's in his 2nd year, so he's fine. He's doing his own online. The other one will be entering 9th grade. One is going to the 8th grade, and then the youngest will be in 3rd. So 14, 13, and 8. 3 kids, 3 different grade levels. My husband can't, he's a breadwinner, so he can't take off. So it kind of falls on me to still work, but then at the same time, manage 3 kids at 3 different grade levels. So I guess my question, two big question is flexibility. With homeschooling, how does that work? Do you create your own schedule that works for you?
Absolutely. I know a lot of some of my friends honestly start homeschooling at like 5 or 6 p.m. If their kids are older and they can, and they can do that. A lot of them, again, if they're older, they can do a lot before that point. You would probably, have more to say, but I know that it is possible. And I have known people who have worked a full-time job and then, kind of started the actual stuff later on in the day.
Okay.
And I think for you, the difference between either doing the distance learning program that they put together, choosing your own, all the different distance learnings that you could choose on your own, or choosing to more traditionally homeschool would come down to what do you want to facilitate more? Because if you do, I don't know what the schools are going to choose. Obviously, I can't speak to that exactly, but with a lot of the online programs and all, they want the kids to be on that computer for 6 hours, 7 hours straight. And so you got to make sure they're on that computer. Plus, you got to make sure they're doing the work and all.
Right.
But let's say you choose, math mammoth, math curriculum for your 8th grader. You can assign do this, do that. You can knock that out in 45 minutes at that age easily. You can knock that out in less than that. And most of it, they saw a lesson plan with it, just for instance of this curriculum, that says what pages to do. The teaching's right on it. Video links to the videos that teach it. So that's the way that you could have more flexibility by building your own program than by following one of their specific programs.
Right.
And it's so much less time.
Right.
But it's more work and more commitment from you to make those choices.
Right.
Yeah, maybe Tracy can say more because she's more accustomed to those age groups.
Right.
So when I did this homeschooling for the high schooler, a lot of times my 8th grader or 7th grader and up, they did a lot on their own. And then we did subjects where I could do chemistry because I teach science for the homeschool groups. I could do chemistry for kids from 5 to 18. We could technically do it all at the same time. I just give the little kids kind of learn by osmosis, and they're really good at it. And the older kids just do their labs with you, and you work on it together. I do agree with Sarah in some ways that you get to create how many days you spend. So say you're 2 days in the office and 3 days at home. Depending on when you want to start your teaching, you could work out a schedule with your older kids, especially to say, okay, go ahead and do this math. And then if you have any troubles, I'm going to be on lunch break at this time. Let's talk about it at lunch, or let's discuss it. And the thing you learn about when you homeschool is that time, when I first started homeschooling, it looked like school because that's what my son was used to. But after a while, you realize it doesn't have to look like that. You don't homeschool from 9 to 4 or 7 to 3. It really doesn't work that way. Some days you could be done homeschooling by lunch. Literally, the entire day could be done. And when your kids get really good at it, they realize, ooh, if I get it done by lunch, I actually don't have to school for the rest of the day. It's very invigorating for them. Oh, cool, I could do something else. I could, work on a creative project. I could take a class that's more for theater or something that's fun. So I think that's definitely a benefit. I think the hardest thing is having your third grader, because at that age, they might need more one-on-one from you. But is it going to be any different than doing that one-on-one with a Livonia deciding what you're going to be doing one-on-one with them? I don't know. I think there's a lot more fluid ways to teach a third grader that doesn't involve 7 hours in front of a computer.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely think there's options.
I think that, okay, so then that leads to my next question. For example, let's just say that this year it is remote learning and I decide to take the homeschooling route. If my kids decide that they want to go back to school next year, does the curriculum, does it meet the standards to where, okay, and I'll use my 9th grader for an example. He's really into sports, very athletic. He's kind of bummed that they're going to not do football this year. So if he decides, okay, 10th grade, he wants to go back to school, does the curriculum meet the standards to where when he goes back, he's entering the 10th grade because he meets the standards to where he should be at academically to get into the 10th grade for Livonia?
What they will say is that you need to have an accredited program. There are programs that are for homeschoolers that are accredited. PACE is definitely an accredited program. If you use that, then the chances of him going back to school without any trouble would be higher. At one point when my middle child was in 8th grade and my son was in 10th, they wanted to go to school in Rochester. And that's the one thing, is they basically told me my kids would have to start a year behind because the program we were using was not accredited to their accreditation standards. And so son would have had to go back to 9th grade. And when he found out, he's like, hell no, that's not happening.
They
And I said,
have like a test. I wonder if they have like a test now. that they would-
might, but
I know that when it comes to the littles, it's different. So any of you who have younger kids who are thinking maybe a year, maybe 2 years, want to go back, for the elementary kids, it's really more of a case-by-case basis. You talk with the counselors, you talk with the teachers, and they get an idea, of that. And most of the time in the younger grades, they want to go more by age because it has so much more to do with maturity as long as the kid can keep up. So I would really say that's probably way less of a concern if your kids are in the elementary grades than in the high school.
And you could ask the high school too, like put that across to them, the distance learning doesn't really always work for my kids. They kind of do really need some in-class or in-person teaching. These are some things I'm considering. You could also do it anonymously. Just call and ask the questions. Don't tell them who you are. Just call and ask the questions. If I have a student in Livonia schools and they're struggling, so I'm going to try a different program this year. If they wanted to come back to the high school, is there going to be a problem? And get someone's name and get exactly what they say to you. That, then you'll know for sure where you stand before you make this decision.
And most curriculums have scope and sequence, so they can show exactly what he learned on 1-2 sheets of paper. It tells you just the same way that the textbooks at the schools tell you exactly what they covered, and the same wording that the government standards. Because personally, I do like to look over the government standards occasionally, just to have a general idea, because things might have always happen in life. But yeah, so you would be able to provide them with what they learned this year.
Right.
Sam,
Okay. Yeah.
Sam, I teach at Stevenson High School in Livonia. So I do know that they are exhibiting a lot of flexibility with this because they know that people are experiencing this. This afternoon, we did get an email like at 4 o'clock that said there will be an option for online school. So now they're giving kids the option, if they want to go totally online, they can, or they can do classroom, which could get closed at any moment, and end up online. It's really very up in the air with the public school, and I think definitely they want to work with you. I know they do.